Many thanks for choosing us. Let's begin with Ghana's economy, which is on the verge of collapse. That's the verdict of finance and economic experts as the country's debt stock hits high distress levels. Last week, independent ratings agency Fitch downgraded Ghana's credit worthiness from a B to a B minus, with a projected 83% debt to GDP for the year ending December 2021. This will significantly affect the country's access to loans on the international market, even as government's local revenue mobilization campaign is threatened with the controversial E-levy yet to be approved by Parliament. We'll hear from the experts shortly. First, though, my colleague Isaac Kofi of the Joy Research Desk has been looking at Ghana's economic outlook in the past year and joins me in the studio with details. Kofi, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Aisha.
How is our debt looking like?
Well, let's start with the genesis of this whole issue, which is Ghana's deficit. So at the moment, the country is projecting to expend an amount of 137.5 billion Ghana cedis in 2022, with a revenue projection of 100.5 billion cedis in the same period. This will leave a debt, deficit of 37 billion Ghana cedis. So the question is, how are we financing this 37 billion Ghana cedis when we've lost access to the international market? So as it stands now, the country's total debt stock is 341.8 billion, as of September ending 2021. That is the country's, debt stock as of September 2021. Now, let's do a breakdown of the 341.8 billion. Okay. And then you realize that domestic component alone is accounted for 163.7 billion Ghana cedis, and external components 178.1 billion Ghana cedis. So the problem here is that just, the first quarter of 2022, government wants to borrow an amount of 24.5 billion Ghana cedis, and then 9.3 in January, 7.55 in February, and then 7.65 in March. But if you do a breakdown of this figure, you realize that the amount government is borrowing, 20.7 billion, will go in for, settling old debts. Okay. And government will be left with just 3.8 billion to expend, as for expenditure or other government expenditure. So the question is, you are borrowing this huge amount from the domestic market, but you have just 3.8 billion at your disposal for other, expenditure. So that's quite
dangerous for our economy, definitely. And that's why economist Dr. Priscilla Chumisi believes it is time to review the country's borrowing strategy. Listen.
It's basically on the report that was released by the Ghana Statistical Service for the just ended population and housing census. So just before Christmas, we saw that the Ghana Statistical Service released one of its reports, and the section on the labor market is quite telling of the need for us to take a critical look at employment generation challenges we have faced as a country. And when you look critically at the reports, you see that unemployment rates among the population 15 years and over is 13.4%. Among the population 13 years to 35 is 19.7%. Even worse is the rate of unemployment among young adults, 15 to 24 years. That is 33%. So when you take 3 young adults in Ghana, 1 is definitely unemployed. This is quite alarming and a matter of national security threats, particularly with examples we have seen in other African countries, like in the Arab Spring. What is equally worrying in the report is the fact that more than 46% of the unemployed persons have given up hope. They are no longer looking for jobs, although they are available to work. So indeed, this is something that should tell us that as a country, we need to take a very critical look at our strategies towards employment generation. And when you take a critical look at the jobs in the report, you see that the public sector, which is government, employs 10% of the people that are employed. 13% of the people employed in the formal sector are in the private sector. The rest of the labor market, the employed persons, are in the informal sector, 77%. This data compares directly with previous data we have on the labor market in terms of the GLSS. But when you look at the unemployment data, it is quite a staggering departure from what we find in the GLSS, earlier versions of the data. So this is an indication that the structure of the economy is not changing in response to the need for jobs. Informal sector continues to dominate employment in the country, and it comes with its repercussions. The private sector, which is the engine of growth, is clearly not expanding because it employs only 13% of the employed population. So going forward, how do we achieve inclusive growth and develop the country? A country where everybody is a beneficiary of the growth through employment generation and keep unemployment to the barest minimum. As a country, we need to take a serious look at the structure of the economy and look at the sources.
But we may need more than just a review of our borrowing strategy, as finance experts predict an impending collapse of the economy if nothing drastic is done. Professor Godfrey Bockming is a finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School.
When you see the proportion of the debt payment relative to the size of your revenue envelope, and you look at the rising debt, and you look at the rate of economic growth and the drivers of that growth, you can reasonably predict that it's just a matter of time and the economy may collapse.
What time, Prof, are we looking at here?
We're probably going to run into a little bit more difficulties towards the end of September. Yeah.
September this year?
It's going to be difficult. It's going to be much more challenging. But of course, there are interventions available to government in terms of certain cost-cutting measures that they have to do, also to signal confidence in the economy, and then also how the revenue envelope responds to the various policies, both response to the 2022 budget, both at the policy level and administration and compliance of revenue measures. And we know that debt to GDP ratio doesn't tell us everything about your debt sustainability strength. So, and it's a bit backward. Essentially, what you are saying is that how hard would it be to pay off all your debt with 1 year's output? Because you take your public debt, scale that by GDP. But actually, there's no requirement that you should pay off all your debt with 1 year's output, because we borrow against future cash flows. Some loans have maturity of 10 years, 15 years, and the rest of them. So if you look at it strictly in terms of debt to GDP ratio, it doesn't tell you everything. And that is why in the literature, we go beyond debt to GDP ratio and look at maybe your debt service to revenue ratio.
Meanwhile, Senior Vice President of Policy Think Tank Imani Africa, Bright Simon, says government has been misdiagnosing the problem and is calling on government to initiate a multi-stakeholder response to explore varied approaches in dealing with the situation.
If you want to do proper design of that tax, you need sound consultations around issues such as what should be the rate, who should be actually exempted, what should be the cap, etc. All of those things need real modeling, and nobody has shown us any modeling. Nobody has shown us that if we use this and that, here will be the output. All we've been told is just simply accept it. And we are saying that combination emerges from a general tendency to diagnose the problem wrongly and then to prescribe the wrong solution. We know also from case studies elsewhere, it's about 7 countries that have experimented with this Momo tax or digital taxation approach. And if you take Uganda, and actually Kenya has been doing this since 2013. So this is not something new or novel or innovative. We know it quite well. Uganda has been doing this for almost 3.5 years. And what has it told us? What it told us is that it does not bring a lot of money. So if we adjust for Uganda's smaller volumes, they do about 22 billion. We do about 100 billion in Momo. They have a smaller rate, 0.5%, and that was because there were protests in Kampala that forced the government to retreat. So we were thinking of 1.75%. If you adjust for those differences, you find out that Uganda did maybe $27 million last year. If we use the same factors and you extrapolate for Ghana, we may make maybe about $350 million from that tax. But as I've explained, there are trade-offs there that also tells you that the efficiency of that tax is not very high. MTN gets about 90% of all the Momo in the country, and last year it made about $260 million from the tax, from fees.
Okay.
So that all of those things tell you that they may not get a lot. And then if that leads to behavioral changes that formalizes the sector, it interferes with a major project that the Ghana Revenue Authority is currently undergoing, which is an attempt to tax the digital economy as a whole. And that is taxing value in the economy. So if you sell your watch on Instagram, how do we tax you? That's a much bigger problem if a lot more people are going to move into using the digital sector. Otherwise, the digital tools merely become additional instruments to deformalize the economy.
Okay.
To end it all, let me just simply say that what I've been trying to say is the government has been misdiagnosing the problem of revenue. Part of the reason being misdiagnosing is that too many people in the room think alike. So they have an echo chamber, too many partisan people that are completely beholden to the political party. They cannot have the same degree of robust debate you need.
Well, government has been responding to these concerns, insisting the economy is so robust. It's issued a statement in the last few hours, and we'll be looking at that statement shortly. The statement, excerpts of the statement reads, these are some serious, so it says the attention of the ministry was drawn to a widely circulated Bloomberg article captioned Ghana debt moves deeper into distress as investors lose patience. There are some serious factual errors in the article which may give investors some cause for concern if not corrected. For example, it stated 81.5% as end-of-year debt to GDP ratio. This is incorrect. Our provisional nominal debt to GDP as at the end of November was 78.4%, which is the latest data available. December revenue collections are seasonally the largest for any year. It is unlikely that our financing requirements in December will result in US exceeding 80% debt to GDP by December 2021. The Bloomberg article gave wrong historical debt to GDP figures. It is essential we make the correction that Ghana's debt to GDP figures a decade ago were 39.67% and 47.80% for 2011 and 2012 respectively, and not 31.4% as stated in the publication. It's important also to note that for the period prior to COVID, Ghana experienced an average debt to GDP ratio of 56.4% from 2015 to 2019. The current 78.4% debt to GDP ratio as at the end of November 2021 indicates rather a reduction in the rate of debt accumulation, and that says declined by half to 18% as at November 2021 from 34% in 2020. This attests to an improvement in our debt and liability management, contrary to what the article seeks to suggest. It is most unfortunate to note that foreign investors and market participants are on the edge of following the umpires in Parliament in relation to passage of the E-levy bill. The market seems to be pricing into our bonds and perceived risk of having a slim majority in Parliament and the consequences thereof. The markets also seem to be concerned that this might impact government's ability to successfully pass and implement some of its major revenue policy measures as presented in 2022 budget. The ministry would like to state that a healthy debate in vibrant Parliament is a critical part of Ghana's growing democratic credentials, and by no means should it be deemed to be a fiscal risk. Government is confident that when Parliament resumes sitting this month, the E-levy bill, which has already been discussed and approved by the Finance Committee of Parliament, will be passed by Parliament. And the ministry also wishes to state government is on track to meet its non-oil tax revenue target of 57.05 billion for 2021. The 2022 non-oil tax target is 80.3 billion, and it moves us to a tax revenue to GDP of approximately 16%, which is still below our median revenue target of 18 to 20% of GDP. Away from our debt stock, last week the Ghana Water Company announced a nationwide water rationing exercise. The company said the situation has arisen due to high turbidity of the water sources it uses to produce water for our consumption. Mining, mainly small-scale, majority of which are illegal, is one key source of the problem. It appears we have taken our eyes off the ball, abandoned our fight against illegal mining, whilst government says it has done a lot to address the illegal mining menace. So this afternoon we'll seek to resurrect the conversation, or if you like, the campaign against illegal mining or any form of mining which destroys our environment, especially our water bodies. We have brought together everyone who matters in this issue to find a way out of the situation. We have representatives of the media, Ghana Water Company, environmentalists, government, and campaigners to deal with the destruction caused by illegal mining activities. First, though, here is a short feature showing the Galamsey problem in the Ashanti region.
Meet Kweku Bwedi, a 52-year-old farmer at Manso, Tontokrum, popularly referred to as Chinatown. It is a community in the Mansia South district of the Ashanti region. Bwedi has lived here all his life.
Well, Bruno, well, big a scaffy, you know, there was what the animals were there, or the amount. No, I trust not saying a quack. Information here, Crum Channel for ya, and pay for you, do channel for any two. If you took a massenina near your dog, Brodomo, Ukumasi. Senina, boy, it's a Kodo Blue. In fact, such I'm saying here a higher pie.
As the breadwinner of his family of 2 wives and 7 children, Kweku switched from fishing as his livelihood to crop farming because the rivers in the community are too toxic to support any form of aquatic life.
He said, as soon as the Galamsey by and sitting here, and Hono, so called 2 years, and so I decade, you will say, call from car near Fadia and first of 3 years, and call ye quiet, and should be the sa edico. It's so to and said, just so consensus you 15 at the Akofu. The Galamsey, in fact, are higher.
The river in which he undertook his fishing activity has almost dried up. The water looks brownish.
The Galamsey, the minimum, but the message I wish to come say, would be no be as somebody gold, no, and we see a good son in my baby. Me, no, I don't know how the Insaswede a deba.
The towns Manso Tontokrum, Aswade, Manso Edubia, Manso and other communities are all now loosely referred to as Chinatown. With flooded open pits, Tontokrum remains a dangerous mining enclave. Ekuya Fati is a mother of 6 and is worried about the safety of her children.
Dia ahame kakara nse bi amana no motunu akola bi betimi alcohol no akopetra akwa akotomu akonya sabi wo bi a wo binim dia akolanda acha wo ba baye.
Ekuya is also worried about their inability to drink from the river.
Nsuo dia sisi dia kuroma ha dia kase yenkwasa fo mu nsuo manoma nsuo bia ni ha nsuo ni nyina asese nsuo nsu ni ha.
The Chinese enter these communities and effectively mining everywhere they can find the precious mineral. Unit Committee Chairman for the area, Peter Awere, recounts the difficulty in dealing with the problem.
Assembly no ya we also try best, but because of scarcity also be fight it opposition kura e be bo nti omo hu a e bi o ha no mo so mo bo mo ni aguso but omo ya we say
the situation is so dire that many farmland, including cocoa farms, have now been sold to the Chinese. 36-year-old JC Amwenu now operates a Chinese-owned gold processing machine in the community.
As a Ghanaian, I'm supposed to pay 30 cedis or 40 cedis for the day, depending on how much I will get. But the Chinese man will buy an acre of land at 25,000 or 30,000. Yeah, by an acre. But as for me, a Ghanaian, I can't get that sort of amount to buy that land.
Let me share with you how the River Cobra is looking like right now in the western region. And just right there on your screen, you will see that the River Cobra, you cannot even identify how the color is looking because of the turbidity levels. Let me open it up for you so you can actually see how this is looking. This is River Cobra for you, if you can see there. This is how it has turned. This is supposed to be a river, but if you look at the color, you realize that a lot has happened there. Probably that's what the Ghana Water Company is talking about. All these areas, if you look at these areas, they're supposed to be forest areas, okay? These areas are supposed to be forest areas. I'm talking about these areas. They're supposed to be forest areas. But look at, because of activities of illegal mining, they've become pockets of muddy areas. There's no forest around this area, and all of these are supposed to be protecting the river, but now all these are gone, and so the River Cobra has become very vulnerable, and all the activities are affecting the river, and that's the effect we're having right now, having to ration water across the country. I'm going to share some figures with you. We've done a lot of operations, Operation Halt, we've done a number of operations just to halt the activities of Galamsey, but that hasn't worked. Last year, government launched a nationwide operation to clear illegal miners out of our water bodies. Now, some soldiers were there, so this is it. The personnel deployed for to go and check Galamsey. We had, for phase 1, we had 400 personnel deployed. For phase 2, we had 200 personnel. But what have we achieved from all these operations that government has launched to ensure that we deal with Galamsey? Let's have a conversation this afternoon. Joining me via Zoom for this conversation is George Mrekoduka, who is Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Ken Ashigbe is convener for the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Daryl Bonso is Deputy Director of the Arocha Ghana. Stanley Mate is Communications Manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited. And also joining us this afternoon is Erastus Asare Donko, who is our correspondent in the Ashanti region. He's done a lot of work in Galamsey areas. He will be sharing some insights which will serve as a guide. And Adam Strom, who's also a documentary maker who has done so much in this field. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for making time for this conversation. I'll start with you, Stanley Mate, because you last week announced that it's become necessary to do rationing of water across the country. What exactly is our water situation? Hello, Stanley Mate. Kindly unmute for me, Stanley Mate.
Aisha, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. The water situation currently in the country is not bad. It's not very bad. Except that if we do not work at rectifying the situation as it is now, we may fall into a crisis situation. But currently, we are treating water. We are working, producing around 60% capacity, which is not enough for the population though, but we are managing the situation. And that is why we are doing the water demand management, so that at least we can have some equitable distribution of the little water in the system, so that the population or citizens can survive on the water that we have. So currently, that is the situation. And it's also a reason because of one, the dry season that we are in now. When you showed the map of the Ankobra area, you see how the forest has been depleted. And you said it right by saying that the forest is supposed to give our river body some cover so that the rate of evaporation will be low. But currently, rate of evaporation is very high, and we are challenged as a result. Now, what makes it worse is that with little water in the system, our brothers who are involved in galamsey operations have now started their activities in earnest. And so the little water is also almost destroyed. The water is also highly turbid now. So it becomes very difficult for us to abstract enough and to treat enough for the people. Now, when we abstract the little water, because of the high turbidity, we have had to lose about 30 to 40% of what we have abstracted. So then the 60%, although not full capacity, is also not enough for the population, and that's that's a challenge that we find ourselves now. Since it's a discussion, I need not say much. Let's listen to the other panelists, and let's see, as experts in the environmental field and all that, let's see the views, and then maybe we can add on. But currently, the situation is not the best. We are just hoping that we are going to have early rains, and so that at least the river bodies can be replenished with enough water, and then the raw water quality can improve. Then we can abstract more water and to treat for the people. But if the trend is to continue, then it's going to be a serious challenge. So we are really hoping for early rains. Thank you.
Let me bring in Adam Strem, who's also done a lot of work in the areas of mining areas. Adam Strem, I need you to paint a picture of what exactly you've seen in these areas as far as illegal mining is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much, Aisha. So for now, I've been to the central region, western region, eastern region, western north, and a part of the northern region. For me, filming the destruction caused to rivers from 2013, I've realized that since that time, nothing has been done, and the situation is even worse. If you take the river Bonsa, for instance, which is in the western region, it joins the Ankobra River, and the Ghana Water Company draws water from River Bonsa. And if you look at the picture of how the river, the color of the river has turned, you realize that it will be very difficult for the Ghana Water Company to treat the water, because it is not only polluted by mud, but also polluted with cyanide, mercury, and other chemicals that the miners use. And because they do these things directly on the river, so it's certainly going to affect the production of water in that area, for instance. Then if you come to Dabuasi, where the PRA pass, you also realize that the PRA has become, like, as people say, it's become like a Milo drink. You only need to add sugar to it. So, and if you go to, if you look at the River Tano, which at a point divides Ghana and Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, you realize that it is also, the color has changed because of mining. And I think the picture on the screen right now is actually something that I did long ago. and it shows how the Ankobra was neat, clean and clear. You could even see the greens in the water itself. But when you look at the other side, you realize that it's completely gone. So this is how extensive or damaging the activities of illegal mining is causing to water bodies in Ghana. And look, the one of the dangerous ones that we need to tackle immediately is the black water, which the Bui Dam is built on. The miners have started approaching the river. They are mining by the river. Some are even mining on aspects of the river. So it's a very difficult situation, I must say, regarding the pollution of rivers in Ghana.
Dr. Ashigbe, I remember you have warned severally that if we do not do things right, we are likely to reach a stage where we will have to import water. Is it where we are now?
Well, thank you very much, Aisha. And good, well, there's nothing good about the afternoon, but we'll still greet good afternoon. And you see, so my brother Stalimati talks about the fact that we're in the dry season, you know, and so there's no water and all the challenge. But if you examine the trends, and that's what Adam mentioned, if you take every dry season, you realize that the situation is getting worse and worse and worse. So if at this particular point in time, you are getting just 30% out of the raw water that you can treat, you know, you are approaching the asymptote. You know, there was some time that I'm sure if you ask Stanley, they would be getting by this time in excess of, you know, it will be flipped around. It might be just maybe 60% of that water that they would use. But now we are increasingly seeing that the dry seasons, the turbidity levels are getting worse and worse. The only reprieve that we got was, you know, during the height of when we started the media coalition against Galamsey, and then you had the joint force of the police and the military in there, then you saw an improvement. But the way we are going, we are just pushing the limit, and definitely it's a prophecy that Stanley made some time ago, and it's not a prophecy, it's just looking at the trends and saying that very soon we're going to start importing water, because water is a finite, you know, item, and if you are destroying the source of it, you know, the vegetative cover at the source of the water, you are destroying all of that. You will get to a point where all your water resources would run out. And it's not only as if we're destroying that, but we're also poisoning the water as well. You know, so there's a lot of mining activity right on the waterbed. Very recently, somewhere in Asankrewa, there was, you know, the excavators were on the riverbed. There was one of the people from there who then, you know, brought it to my attention. I raised it up with the ministers. You know, some people went there, but they mined till the next morning and then they left. You know, so the Galamsey is still going on. So the local authorities are able to help us deal with the situation that we find ourselves. Unfortunately, it looks as if we'll get to a point where, you know, water, we might have to, you know, import water. And it's not only about importing water. You know, there was a time when the former minister for environment went to Cote d'Ivoire on another assignment. They pulled him aside, and, you know, the people in Cote d'Ivoire started chastising him that because of the unregulated mining that we were doing in our parts, we were polluting their water. So what if we are not careful, what would happen is that water would be the cause of conflicts, you know, across with our neighbors. You know, so it's the challenge that we talk about, it's really a serious one, but we don't seem to be treating it as we ought to do. We all have this Esau mentality to it. So we are cutting our tongues to eat, thinking that we have, you know, some meats that we have. but we're destroying our today and our tomorrow. So I think it's very true. Very, very soon, if we continue where our dry seasons are this bad, very soon there'll be no water.
I mean, Darabonsu, you also have followed the discussion. I mean, government has done so many things. It seeks to correct the wrongs. Now, how would you describe our fight against galamsey? Have we made any progress?
Thank you very much, Aisha. And I would say that to a certain extent, we decided to get on the right path to do right and deal with galamsey. But I will say that along the way, the whole idea of government rebranding galamsey into community mining made the matters worse. And that is how come all those areas that we saved as a result of the campaign against galamsey, the community miners have gone back to these areas and they are removing forests, they are depleting rivers and streams. And that's how come we have this challenge. And if it continues like this, as has been said, you realize that our current water provisioning system is not resilient in any way. There seems to be a focus on just the distribution of water services from the pipes and also from the distribution outlets. But until we have a system where we prioritize our watersheds, our rivers and streams, we are just wasting our time. And at the moment, the community mining, which is just another rebranding of galamsey activities, has made matters worse. And I think that has made us fail completely when it comes to addressing galamsey. So there's still a lot more to do. But as long as our rivers continue to be polluted, every dry season, we are not winning the campaign. And that's something we need to deal with immediately and with as much urgency as is needed.
Well, I must say that the video showing on your screen right now is kind courtesy Sarah Matrix and IRI. I'm now privileged to bring in the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Mrikuduka. I'm grateful for your time. Recently, government has introduced several interventions, all in the bid to streamline the activities of illegal miners and bring some sanity to the sector. Where are we with that?
It's Aisha. Thanks for the opportunity. Aisha, you know that just recently we commissioned the Operation Hot 2 to embark on vigorous exercise to weed out these recalcitrants who are mining in our river bodies. And that hasn't stopped in any way. As I speak with you, I may not be able to share technically the security modus operandi of that, but they are on the field working. And with this canker, we may need all hands on deck. Government alone cannot fight it, as we've been touting all these years, that it's not a measure to task government, fight it, let's see. And if we don't realize that and we continue politicking with mining in our river bodies, it will go a long way in disturbing this country. For all you know, government, after instituting the Operation Hot 2, has also instituted measures to have permanent security task force for these river bodies by getting river guards who will be supported with speedboats on our river bodies, have security checkpoints, advantage points, where they will be reporting to these security checks intermittently, so that we unleash whatever measures we could do to arrest such this situation. We recently, as you outlined, did national dialogue to bring everybody on board, and both minority and majority side of parliament participated immensely. So it tells you that we committed involving everybody. We've been making the small-scale miners, cautioning them, conscientizing them, the need for them to support government to fight this cancer. Interestingly, galamsey fight has never been an event. It's a process. South Africa, they call it Zama Zama. They were here recently to find out how we are even fighting our galamsey miners. Interesting. And the turbidity level of our river are of concern to all of us. And we asking your platform to continue in any way sensitizing the public. They need to move away from our river bodies. The minister himself has even tabled that there are 2 zones, red zones, that he has declared, and nobody whatsoever should mark these areas, river bodies and that of forest reserves. And the onus is on all of us to practically campaign against mining in our river bodies. And we will continue to do that. Everybody must be on board. We shouldn't have situations where people will have that guts to say that when opportunity is given to me, I will allow you to mine. It emboldens those recalcitrants to continue mining in our river. It is not fair for us to do that. So I share, the sentiments my brothers have shared already. It's something worrying, and we must all be mindful of what we're doing and protect our heritage. We'll continue, we'll not throw our hands in despair. We'll continue fighting this. I've been roaming around, getting to the field, making sure, even walking through some of the river bodies, and Cobra, Bonsa, as my brother mentioned, and other river bodies. There's the need. Practically, what we're also doing is to institute district mining committees who will be tasked to run around and give us reports, everyday reports, as to how they are fighting their respective illegalities in the rivers of the various districts. So we're not leaving any chance. We're making sure that we fight this canker. We're making sure that practical measures are put in place to fight against this canker. We're also asking the media, especially your outfit, to also support what we are doing. And I appreciate what you are doing. Just to say that some of the figures put out there may be wrong, because we are comparing 2016 and 2017 the river colors. But that is even not necessary as at this point to talk about. But I have the stability figures here with me. Just recently, we tasked the Water Resource Commission to go around and get some samples of the stability. And comparably, we made some positives. But interestingly, people are taking advantage of the dry season to divert river course, to put earth-moving machines on the river bodies and mine, which is very sad. And that's why some machines get bent or get demoralized, decommissioned, let me put it that way, when we meet them. Because this people, legal miners, divert the river course, put the machines there, remove the control board, as they call it. Then when the military or the police leave, they refix and mine on the course of river. That is worrying. So, we must collectively come together as a country and say, we fighting this dispassionately, moving away from politics and protect the interests of this country. It is very important.
Mr. Mrikuduka, I quite remember in your first term when the president launched the campaign against illegal mining, he enjoyed a lot of support from all angles. And I agree, I hope you agree that you failed in your first term to address the Galamsey menace. Now, in your second term, you made a fresh promise. And 1 year on, here we are, our waters are already depleted. Now, people say you are only dressing the wound in the surface. You are not actually tackling the problems that will bring us the results. Will we ever see an end to this?
Aisha, I wouldn't put it that the first effort the government failed. I wouldn't say so, as I've already told you. This is not an intent that you care and go and say you succeeded, that's it. All over the world, countries that produce gold have been fighting this canker of Galamsey. And you can get your facts. I mean, they are clear. I wouldn't say so. If we had not fought that battle, probably we didn't have gotten to where we are. We might have even lost all our river bodies by now. because the invasion of this illegality started in 2013, where people were, mining in Pazali and so on and so forth. And the government had to come in with a ban on mining generally, the small-scale mining generally, to reposition the fight against these illegalities. So I wouldn't say that the government failed totally. Possibly, I wouldn't also admit that the government had 100%. No, there were gaps that we have repositioned ourselves to really correct them. And as I've already mentioned, we have practically put in measures. It's not like just touting or saying anything to address or just to say for political expedience. No, there are practical measures we put in place. I've told you that government is now bringing in speedboats. Now we will be manning around the river banks and river bodies of the country. We also getting river guards who will be permanently patrolling the banks of our river, river bodies. We also, apart from that, still deepening the operations of Operation 42 to, in a way, also patrol with both helicopters and other accoutrements that may, in a way, support their operations. So we leaving those stones unturned. It's not like throwing our hands in despair and say we just speaking anyhow. No, we are battling. Just recently, some foreign nationals were arrested on one of the river bodies, of which I led even the security task force, to get them arrested. They are being prosecuted. Some are being put behind bars, and we still fighting it. And we need you continue doing some of these programs, which will, in a way, put all of us on alert, and also for people to understand the need for them not to mine in our river bodies. It is very key and very important to the cause of this country.
Dr. Ashigbe, let me bring you in. What's your assessment of governments in this fight? Is there the political will?
Well, Aisha, thank you again. You see, the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating.
Definitely.
And in terms of what the Honorable Deputy Minister is talking about, the water guards, the boats, speed boats that are coming. If you look as far back as the roadmap that was put together by government itself in returning to small-scale mining, a lot of these are in there. The problem has been the execution. The problem has been the execution. So so we're going to get to the point where we were going to track all excavators. We're going to even geofence them in terms of when they are imported into the country, how we're going to register them and all of that. You ask yourself, what has happened to that? So one of my colleagues was talking about the community mining. And for me, I thought the community mining was one of the great policies that we're going to come up with. But even when you take the community mining, there's no policy document currently that I have seen that is really governing that to say, this is how it ought to be done. And then one of the major concerns we've had is the transparency involved in this particular exercise that we're doing, so that you make it so open. I'm happy that the Deputy Minister talks about the fact that they've started commissioned the water resource. It would be good for that data to be made available so that all of us can see it. And the Water Commission should be given the mandate to collect this data on a monthly basis. Because what you want to do is that you want to compare trends. So if you want to take the past 5 years, I want to look at every November, what has been the turbidity in a particular area. Those are the things that would actually be able to tell you whether you're making progress, or what is the acceleration of the, in terms of how the turbidity is changing. All of those things, you want to see them. In terms of involvement of the local authorities in the processes of giving licenses and all of that. There's so many policies that have been put in place that are supposed to be working. But unfortunately, we seem to be doing a bit, then we move back again because the people on the ground are really not doing what they ought to do. These excavators that we're talking about, they are not mobile phones that you can put in your pocket. These are heavy equipment. How they get to cross all the police barriers and get into these places and are used on the river courses without anybody dealing with them. And you have to get people, call some of us in Accra, and we would make calls before these are being flagged up. I believe that the president had a very good opportunity to, at the point where we're appointing DCs again, to say that any DC who failed in dealing with the scourge of Galamsey, we're not going to appoint you. And also for these particular DCs, some of them by now, we should be taking them out because it is either they are so incompetent they cannot deal with the situation, or they themselves are complicit in it. We need to start holding them accountable. It should not take the Honorable Deputy Minister for leading task forces into places that we have DCs, we have district police commanders, and all of that to be able to police it. This thing has to be done from the bottom up. So yes, there are some things that we have done right. And I completely agree with the minister when he talks about the fact that if we had not really embarked on that particular fight, be it that we did not win all the battles that were in there, where we would have been today would definitely have been worse. But we should also not be happy with where we are, with this level of distraction that we are seeing and the way these challenges are staring us in the face. Note, there are some communities where there's a queen mother who's decided that Galamsey is not going to happen in my community. Galamsey is not happening there. We have some communities where you have some paramount chiefs. Close to those paramounties, big paramounties, there's Galamsey happening in them. And so these paramount chiefs, they as local authorities, they have completely lost the battle. So in as much as we want to see national government do work, we should start also holding our local authorities, our chiefs in the committees that we are in, also accountable. Because definitely, if you look at the output of what we are having, we're definitely increasingly, the situation is becoming dire. And definitely we need all forces together to join hands to it to be able to win this.
I'm happy you talk about all forces, and you are leading a very beautiful cause, the media campaign against Galamsey, which I believe was actually helping in putting government on its toes. What has become of that campaign?
Thank you very much, Aisha. Well, I think for us, the media too, we also carry a bit of the challenge, but I'm not too sure we can be fully blamed. I think what has happened is that the media themselves, they've struggled, in terms of you push, and then the actions that ought to be taken are not taken. It's good that you have Erastus here. I remember going to the military high command when Erastus and co went in to go and point out some of the illegalities that were happening. What has happened to that? There was a situation in which you found, reports were made, that the media made reports, but in terms of those who have to take decisions, have not taken the decisions. So it looks as if the media as well, we've not been as consistent. But I will not really blame the media. At least you brought it up again, and would all just urge all of us that we all need to keep our eyes on the ball. One of the places that we have gotten to as media, and that requires a bit of support and a bit of funding, is to be able to do the investigative reporting. It's a very risky one. The challenge that Erastus went through, where they were almost beaten up by, military authorities. And when we went to the military high command, really did not get much out of that. But that is the work that we need to do. We need to do and uncover the big wigs that are behind this. It's not, the people who are in the pits that you need to deal with. Who are the people who are importing these excavators into town? Who are the people who are renting them for over 20,000 cedis a day? That's not small amount of money. We need to be able to unearth all of these people. And it's the reason why we would expect the state to collaborate with the media, especially the intelligence community, to be able to flash out some of these people. I remember the very early stages of Honorable Peter Mill. There was a national security report that we got. That pointed fingers to some of these people, but that did not continue. And so, Honorable Minister, those are the supports that the media would require of you to be able to support them to go into the theater of, and because that's a theater of battle, a theater of a very dangerous place, to be able to provide them the cover to go into these places, the operation halls, when they are going, we should have media people embedded in there so that they can report the thing independently as it's going on. It is those things that would be able to show to citizens that we actually are serious about this, and we need the buy-in of citizens to say that we need to stop this thing. So that's been the challenge with the media coalition. Remember that we were supported by Star Ghana and a few other corporate bodies, and so when those funds also stopped, I can't blame the media. The media itself also was impacted very heavily by Operation by COVID. So the resources to be able to continue at it has been difficult. But this is about survival. So I still urge you, the media, we need to dedicate some resources behind this. And then when the media does this work as well, Honorable Deputy Minister, we need the support of the government, the duty bearers, to ensure that when we uncover some of these people, we actually punish them. And we also need the judiciary. The judiciary has also been one of the arms that have failed us. The situation where Operation Vanguard, we had only 10% of the people that were arrested being taken to court, and even a smaller part being, convicted. And then you have the challenges that we had with, big wigs like Aisha Wang and all of that. All of those also become, demotivating factors for journalists to want to put their lives on the line to continue this. But we cannot afford that. Because of these things, we will not really get into it and still push to ensure that we can expose all those people who are really behind these challenges that we face.
Stanley Mate, so how long are we going to endure this? Is Stanley Mate on? Kindly unmute for me, Stanley Mate.
Yeah, Aisha, let me be very sincere with you and with my panelists and then Ghanaians. Okay. The way the situation is, we can't say that it will end tomorrow or the day after, okay? Because all our treatment plants, or most of our treatment plants, are conventional, and we use surface water in abstracting water. Now, if we continue polluting our river bodies the way we are doing now, then our equipment and our treatment plants will be there, but then there will be no water to abstract for treatment. Now, we are just hoping for early rains this time around. If the rain do not come on time and the rivers dry up, it means that there will be no water for treatment. And that is the seriousness of the issue. And that is what we've been talking about all the time. So we need to do everything possible to stop the pollution of our river bodies. I hope you get me, because we are depending on natural resources. Now, if, for instance, rivers are able to replenish themselves from either groundwater or from rainwater. Now, if we do not have early rains, it means that they'll keep going down, okay? And then the little water that we have in the river bodies too are being destroyed by our colleagues in the Galamsey arena. So then what happens to us? If the water gets turbid to a certain level, we can't even treat again. Okay, so then if we are unable to stop this pollution or this activity, this menace, then it means that we'll find ourselves wanting in the very near future. We haven't seen rains the whole of this month. And we are not talking about rains within the cities, but we are talking about rains at the source where it can replenish our rivers. And not rains in the cities that will wash our gutters into the sea. Now we also depend on the sea for treatment. I hope you're aware about that. And then what we are also facing now is also pollution of the sea itself. So that we are having challenge with our desalination plant because the water we abstract is filled with garbage, especially our plastic bottles and the plastic bags that we use on the market. So it's also affecting us in that arena. So we really need to do something about these things. And the earlier we did, the better.
Daryl, definitely the earlier we did, the better, just like Stanley Mate is saying. But we've done enough to actually ensure we don't get here, yet we are here. We've done Operation Halt, we've done Operation Vanguard, we've done task committee, task force, what have you, yet we are here. And Stanley Mate is saying something that is very dangerous. We do not know when this will end. It means that it can go from bad to worse. How do we get out of here?
Yes, thank you very much. I think we need to have a systematic approach to resolving this issue. First of all, we need to halt the actions of Operation Halt and give back the power to the district assemblies and the decentralized institutions that are there who are enabled to do their work. There's a police at every district, there's a traditional authorities, there are community people. All of these people need to be allowed to do their work without any political interference. And I think that is something we said somewhere in 2020, that if Operation Halt continues its activity beyond 6 months, then it means that we have completely failed. We need to, whilst dealing with this issue, give back the power to the communities. When they report, the police should act on them without any traditional or political interference. This is clearly missing. And until we do that, we are going to come back to this issue every year, and it's going to keep the police and water resources. Secondly, at national level, we need to have a prioritization of our water resource management policy such that we make sure that mining activities stay clear of our water bodies. Yes, these are all inevitable. Mining is inevitable to livelihood for many people, but we need to make sure that it's done sustainably and it stays clear of our water bodies. Until we do that, we are going to have these challenges every year. And our current water system, like I said, is not resilient. We need to match the watershed protection with the water distribution system. Currently, we invest so much in water distribution, but very little in watershed protection. What is happening is not going to solve it. It is not the guards we live at communities that is going to stop this issue. We need to have a clear policy, stay clear of community resource management activities by making sure the politicians stay away, the traditional authorities respect the interests of the communities as well. Otherwise, we cannot keep funding the military on the ground all year round. It is not sustainable. Let's make our decentralized systems work, decentralized institutions work, Water Resource Commission, EPA, the police, and the community groups there to do their work, and then we'll be making progress. This is really unfortunate because it's happening every year and still we keep coming back to this. I believe that we want to make that next year we have clear targets to ensure that this doesn't happen. Otherwise, we can't come and sit here and say we have been very successful with the fight against galamsey.
And in some instances, these military men we talk about, we've had complaints that some of them actually protect the people who actually do the mining, the illegal mining, and deplete our environment. Adam Srem, from the areas that you've been to, were there indications that they were being protected by some military men or some big men in court?
Thank you. Yes, as you rightly said, there are areas or places that you go and you find military men there that are protecting the miners on the water bodies. A typical example was a section of the Ankobra River where I flew the drone and then I saw that there were some military guys there that are heavily protecting the miners. And that is also a point that you could count about 25 or 30 mining boats, as some people call it, others call it on the Ankobra River at the same place. And these guys are making huge money on the river. And so the military, the police, these Operation Halt guys, another thing that they do is that it is not only about sucking the miners to go away from the water bodies. It is also an issue of extortion by some of these Operation Halt members, because I've been told by some of the miners that they come on their site and they take about 20,000 cedis from them. And they say that they told me that they have prepared the money ready for them. So once they come, there is no talking, they hand over the money to them and they go their way. So it's a difficult situation. And as Daryl is saying, the best thing for us to do now is to cancel Operation Halt and find another alternative of solving the situation. For instance, if you have a river system that feeds almost half of the population of Accra, I'm talking about the Tiwa Forest, for instance, and you have illegal miners who are being protected in that forest, destroying the Brim River, destroying the Desu River, destroying the Yesu River, then you can imagine what will happen to water supply in Accra.
Thankfully, Erastus has joined us because he shares same experience, with the areas that he has visited and done a lot of reports from. Erastus, what's your experience? Share with us.
Well, so it's not different from what Adam has been talking about. We get the same indication. In fact, I came from Manso and its environs just about a week ago, and the devastation is still ongoing. Even close to Mansour Dubia, just after the police barrier, by the roadside, some young men are busily digging even up to the road as we speak. When you go to the forest, to the Odaho forest, the areas where we went, where military men were protecting an individual there, mining has still been ongoing for a very long time. Operation Halt has been to that area, but never visited the site. There have been other mining within the forest reserve. Kobro, for example, in the Pamprama Forest Reserve, mining is still ongoing there, very, very active. And if you look at the river Oda, the river Ofing, if you look at the river Nyune, and the other streams in the area, there is no life in them. And you could see clearly that they are polluted, hugely polluted. The foam and other things on the surface, to a layman like me, will tell you that something is not right in there. And so you ask yourself whether the fight, as we got it, as renewed as it was, really was meant to achieve any success at all. Yes, we had all the success talk where they drove some of the miners from some of the river beds and other things, but they are back in their full squad and they are working. So that's the situation on the ground at the moment.
Mr. Merkuduka, I believe you're listening to all the experiences and the insights being shared. I mean, what's the assurance from government, and why should we believe you this time round?
There is a clear operational manual, that's a government policy on community mining. We also have Act 703 that guides us in the operation of small-scale mining. I would be glad to collaborate with panelists to share copies, and that I would want you to also make a comment that this was launched in November. So this is to guide the operations of community mining. So there's a clear policy outline for the operations of community mining. And notwithstanding that, let me put it also on record that the solution to this canker is for all Ghanaians to appreciate the fact that there is a need for us to protect our rivers. We have a situational room. The ministry is also ready to receive whoever is ready to work with us. What my brothers have shared, to collaborate effectively to fight this cancer. This situational room receives all reports, then these reports are taken to the appropriate quarters, the security forces, to embark on any activities that need to be done. With the aspect of River and Cobra being mined by this recalcitrant who are being protected by military, I'll be glad to get the coordinates of this area and we'll go fight these people, get them up and arrested and prosecuted immediately. Because nobody will allow or sanction that military people, and I don't think the military will face that force or will be ready to, in a way, mingle in that illegality. Though people put on military kind of attack, though they are not professional, just to, in a way, deceive the public that they are military who have been tasked or assigned to do such operation. So the military themselves or the whole security architecture will be interested to know where these people are to get them arrested. We'll be happy to do that. And let me say that, yes, we're not saying we are the champions of the whole fight, and I wouldn't sit anywhere to praise myself. What we are saying is that as Ghanaians, we need to protect whatever we have. We need to protect our natural resource. We need to protect our river bodies. We need to protect our forest reserves. And it is important for all of us to come together. For example, this operational manual was deduced out of the national dialogue that we did, where we did it collaboratively with other political parties and all Ghanaians. So the matter is not about someone sitting somewhere and saying, do it and let's see. And that is why I'm welcoming all views and all ideas. But we've gone a long way in securing the river bodies. Otherwise, the situation would have been dire. We'll continue fighting. The measures we are putting in place, we believe the tracking, and one of the panel members raised that where have you gotten to with respect of tracking the earth-moving machines, to kind of also help the Minerals Commission to deactivate if the machine goes outside the confines of the assigned concession. And that we're doing very soon. We'll get it operational. We've selected few technical guys who have technical wherewithal as far as tracking of these earth-moving machines are concerned. The Minerals Commission is ready to get it operational soon. We'll let you know so that you also get it out there for us. And we want each and every earth-moving machine tracked so that we can, in a way, manage, and these machines wouldn't be moved on the river bodies as we see now. Secondly, what we also, doing, as I've already mentioned, is to also have permanent river guards who will be patrolling 24/7. Sometimes this operation halt to, they go around, they come, the people are aware that they don't operate at night. So after leaving possibly around 6 o'clock, midnight or 11 o'clock, 11 p.m., they get back, get the machines ready, and they start mining at night. And we want to really, we are mindful of that, and we are going to protect, or work on that aspect as well. So the river guards,
I would urge you to keep on fighting.
With your campaign,
yeah.
With your campaign, we will make a heaven.
So keep on fighting, but have it at the back of your mind that water is currently being rationed. And the Ghana Water Company Limited says that the earlier we do something about our situation, the better. And failure to do so, your guess is as good as mine. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time. George Murekuduka is Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Dr. Ken Ashigbi is convener for Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Daryl Bonso is Deputy Director at Arocha, Ghana. Stanley Mate, Communications Manager for Ghana Water Company Limited. Adam Shrem is a documentary maker. He makes documentary around these areas, and Erastus Asari Donko is our own correspondent in Ashanti region. Still to come in this bulletin, minority in parliament says it will not be intimidated to approve bad government policies despite the prosecution of some of its members.
It's nothing more than vindictiveness, trying to intimidate the minority out of their difficulties. But this is not going to change anything. In fact, it makes us even more resolute. Because we know that, the game is to intimidate, to frustrate, and to think that they can weaken our spirit. No, they can't.
Back to the polls, to the rest of our stories. The minority in Parliament says it will not be intimidated to approve bad government policies, despite the prosecution of some of its members. Former Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Kaisiela Tuforson was today present in court for his role in the procurement of some ambulances by the NDC administration. The case was adjourned after an accused person charged alongside Dr. Forson failed to show up in court. Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, who led a team of MPs to support Dr. Forson, insists prosecution of NDC MPs will not affect the quest to hold government accountable.
Dr. Atuforsen was joined in court by a number of his colleagues in Parliament, including the Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, MP for Elembele, Emmanuel Amakufibua, among others. And the Minority Chief Whip says, as far as they are concerned, they believe that he is being intimidated with the aim of weakening the resolve of the minority to hold government accountable.
Well, I mean, nothing more than vindictiveness, trying to intimidate the minority out of their difficulties. But this is not going to change anything. In fact, it makes us even more resolute. Because we know that, oh, okay, the game is to intimidate, to frustrate, and to think that they can weaken our spirit. No, they can't. In fact, they are rather strengthening and gluing us together. Because you will draw speakers this thing, you are bringing Atuforsen to court, you are charging Dominic Enyini because of Zuarungu market. That's through this assembly. You are bringing Kwesin, criminalizing him when he wrote a letter to electoral commission before he filed. You are charging Akotia MP. You know, you can just see the frustration. And so shameful that they forget that there's a democracy. And unfortunately, this is being led by so-called learned.
So as far as
we are concerned, no, but believe me, they are rather strengthening us because now they are making us even glued together. Now we know that every one of us is in danger. So it's better we glue together. And I can tell them they can choose to withdraw all the security that follow all the 137 of us. They can choose to even take all our salary because they think they are in the executive. But believe me, it is rather going to strengthen us. But they remember, nothing lasts forever.
But in terms of your numbers in Parliament, I mean, this could potentially, there'll be court dates.
How? I mean, I can bet you that he will always be in Parliament first before he will come to the court. That one we can show you that. He will always be in Parliament before because he's still the representative of his people. He's not going to neglect that responsibility to be in court. He will always be in Parliament before he comes to court. So it is for the court to decide what time they will sit so that he'll be able to participate, play his role as the representative of the people. I don't think any of them is more important than the other. Yes, so he will represent his people before he comes to court.
The AG's office had earlier issued a statement indicating that the prosecution of the MPs as a result of crimes that are alleged to have taken place and not the case that they intend to intimidate the minority front. The case itself did not come off because one other accused person, Seth Amenema, did not show up in court. He is a former chief director at the Ministry of Health. We understand that he has a condition that requires that he seeks medical attention, and so he was not present in court, and so the case was adjourned to the 18th of January 2022. And so that is when the charges will be formally read against the MP. You'll be given the opportunity to respond. Then afterwards, the issue of bail will be discussed. Reporting for JoyNews on the Law Court Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
And from here in Kokomlemle in the studio, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Car detailing is a job dominated by men and once seen as an expensive luxury for many vehicle owners. One young woman is hoping to break through into the industry and build Ghana's first all-female car detailing shop. My colleague Justice Bedo went to meet her.
I personally like motorbikes. I like motorbikes a lot. I would pick a motorbike over a car 1,000 times. So sometimes when you're coming, and I mean, I work with time. For me not to get here late, I have to take a motorbike. I'm Fiscal Naila Ologo.
3 years ago, Naila was at the crossroads in her life. She had just come out of senior high school, no job, no money to move on to university, and even if she had, she didn't make the grades enough to get her into the course of her dream.
The goal was to actually find something that I would find happiness in doing. I found myself in the automobile industry.
In 3 years, this young woman has gone from an amateur in this business to detailing some of the most expensive cars you can have. Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, Benz, BMW, you name it.
How would they see a male and give the work to a female? It's being believed that when the work is being given to a man, they do it much better. Okay? Because it's a male-dominating, world, and a female being in that position, doing that kind of work, okay, it's not so easy for them to easily trust and then just give the work to you. They don't trust the process until the work is delivered.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics show that only 1 in 10 people in the automotive repair and maintenance industry is a woman. The situation is not very different in Ghana. Naila wants to help change the trend.
An example is like somebody telling me, how would they see a male and give it to a female? You understand me? But for that same reason, somebody would actually give it to you. The person would freely give it to you. Do you understand me? So somebody would actually come with this reason, and for that same reason, somebody would actually give you that work. I'm looking at working with a lot of females. It has to be females everywhere you pass in my company. Okay, because I see a lot of potential in that. So there's a lot we can do. We don't only have to be selling, sitting inside the office. I mean, there are so many things we female can actually do. Okay, and these are one of the things. So I really want to motivate females into getting into this business because I would like to work with just females one day.
Naila Faisal has now gained admission into the University of Ghana after bettering her grades while on this job, and now hopes that her dream would blaze the trail for many more women to enter this industry. Justice Baidu, JoyNews, Accra.
The quest of the recurrence of the tragedy which claimed the lives of 6 KG children in 2017 has revived the communal labor spirit among residents of Brimanjama in the central region as work progresses at the community DA basic school site under the multimedia group's classroom project. Dozens of community members who have committed to providing labor in support of the project are honoring their word to ensure timely completion of the 3-unit classroom blocks. There's more in the flowing report.
Led by their chiefs and elders, the local assembly, dozens of the community members converged at the construction site to dig the foundation for work to start. While the men dug for the foundation works, mixed concrete and molded blocks, the women fetched water among doing other auxiliary jobs to ensure progress of each day's work on site. A total of 51,000 Ghana cedis has been raised from a target of 155,000 Ghana cedis for 2 different classroom projects. 80% of materials needed for work to begin at the Brimanjama site has been assembled out of the initial 51,000 Ghana cedis mobilized. With the help of an excavator and a tipper truck, the laterites required for the molding of the hydroform blocks were moved to site on the 30th of December 2021. Other materials including cement, 6-inch blocks, sand, chippings, iron rod and wood have also been assembled. Residents could not hold back their joy. They commended the multimedia group for committing to helping them rebuild the dilapidated school block.
I'm a assemblyman in my Jamla electoral area. Now, sending another nippon for it. You are a more fire school down. You are getting you come of facility CEO Methodist one. And I say, I'm back multimedia for to one moment. They have come to site. I'm what the material will go on. I'm what the
I am the assemblyman for the Jamera electoral area. The multimedia group has come to site with the needed materials to build a school for us.
We are
grateful to multimedia for the project. We hope it is completed on time.
If you say and I my friend women and shooter. You between better to hash when I said the bear.
I am very excited after seeing the materials that will be used to construct the new school block.
The project engineer and hydroform technology expert Samuel Kofi Agbenyega is optimistic. All things being equal, work will be completed on schedule.
If we don't have or we don't face any harsh weather conditions, latest by 1st week of February, we should be done with the project. So we are grateful. I mean, we are all supporting. And then those of you who are also bringing in the support, we urge that continue bringing them because we need it now to complete it within the estimated time.
Progress of work requires additional support, both in cash and in kind. The Jamrahene Nana Fusu III, expressing appreciation for work done so far, emphasized the need for more support.
I stand here on behalf of the Jamra people that we are so grateful to them for helping us in this manner. We will continue to ask to everybody to also come and help us.
The classroom project is supported by the Israeli Embassy, Forestry Commission, the Planned City Extension Project, DBS Roofing Sheets, and all who have so far donated to support the project. The Multimedia's Classroom Project is brought to you in partnership with the Star Ghana Foundation and the West Africa Civil Society Institute under the Giving for Change project, with funding from the Dutch Foreign Affairs Ministry. The Classroom Project, promoting social justice through philanthropy. Amafa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News. Brima Jamra.
You can still join us by all our social media platforms. It's on Joy News on TV. You can tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Nana Aisha. We'll take a break. We'll bring you sports.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the sports segment here on The Pulse on the Joy News channel with me, Oreku Ampofo. We talk about the Black Stars who in about 24 hours time would be facing their destiny in the Africa Cup of Nations. Failure to beat Comoros would leave the Black Stars' chances of advancing to the next stage in very, very thin lines. However, victory and a comprehensive one would probably assure Ghana of a spot in the round of 16. We'll be talking about the team. Milovan Rajvac addressed the media today, and the outstanding bit from his presser is that he says that the team this time round is very different from the one that he managed in 2010 and led to the final in Angola. And he goes on to mention Asamoah Gyan being the biggest miss of them all. But however, we'll be focusing on the squad that Milovan Rajvac has this time round in the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon, and we'll be looking at some decisions that he might have taken. First off, he took a 30-man provisional list, and there were a number of injuries and players who wouldn't fulfill the call-up, and he decided not to call any replacements. And so due to that and due to some injuries in camp, Ghana would have just 20 outfield players against Comoros tomorrow. And joining me via Zoom is Bill Eshon of the Joy Sports team. to look at the thinking behind the decision and what the possible repercussions could be. Bill, you have a full idea of Milovan Rajevic's provisional squad, and now there's been some injuries in camp. If you add that to the players who didn't fulfill the call-up, that just leaves Ghana with 20 outfield players for the game tomorrow. What's your overall view of this? Well, Bo, you have to unmute for us. Just wrap up for us on the Ghana squad, the 20 players. I wouldn't be able to mention all the 20. However, those we know would not be available tomorrow include the 3 players who didn't show up in camp at all. That's Kudus Mohammed, and we have Salis of Clermont Foot, and then Afenajan. They didn't even show up in camp at all. In terms of those who did and have injury concerns, we have Mubarak Wakaso and then David Abagna, who's also joined them. In terms of unavailability due to injury, Benjamin Tete, who's also a striker, would be missing for 3 games after being involved in a tussle at the end of that Gabon game. So this is how Ghana got here with just 20 outfield players. Do you have confidence in these 20 players to be able to get Ghana to the next stage?
I mean, looking at the statement that the press conference, that wouldn't inspire anyone to have any confidence saying that,
All right, thank you very much, Bill. I think we might have just lost him, but we'll continue our build-up to the big game between the Black Stars and Comoros tomorrow in Group C action. There is currently Group A action ongoing. We will bring you highlights and also the 2 teams that automatically qualify to the round of 16 stage from Group A. We know that Cameroon already have their foot there, but would they finish as top? Well, that would depend on how their result against Cape Verde goes. So we'll bring you highlights of that during JoyNews Prime at 7:30, and I've just been informed that the host country, Cameroon, have scored, which to some extent is good for Ghana. I'll be explaining that to you much later here on the JoyNews Prime at 7:30. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
And that's where we part company this afternoon on The Pulse. I've indeed enjoyed my almost 2-hour stay with you. Many thanks for watching. And for more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. You'll get updates of all the developing stories. Let's Talk Showbiz is up next. Enjoy the rest of our programs.